I want to talk about the quarterbacks, of course, in the NFL draft. You had 6 of them taken in the top 12. There's no doubt the quarterback position is now valued higher than it's ever been. In some, you could argue maybe overvalued, considering, especially in the first round, considering really the hit rate of quarterbacks. But I think ultimately what teams are looking at is the reward. So they're looking at the upside, not the downside. They're ignoring a lot of the downsides of drafting quarterbacks that high and it not working out, and looking at the upside. And you would say, well, it it actually it doesn't work out more often than it does. So you should consider the downside, and that's not how teams operate. Because I think ultimately what teams understand about the quarterback position is if you hit it, the rewards are almost infinite. Like I mean, you basically you push your ceiling as a franchise, right? You push it to a whole nother level, and you open up so many other possibilities, and it covers up so many mistakes. So you can make a lot of mistakes as a franchise. You can screw up. You can screw up royally, and if you hit on the quarterback, it covers it all up. Texans are a primary example.
Yeah.
Look at the Texans. The Texans, you know this, Patrick. Patrick renounced his fandom. He was so upset with the Texans organization like 4 or 5 years ago. He was so upset. He was like, no, I can't even be a Texans fan anymore. I won't watch them. He was so hurt by them. And they were the worst run organization, arguably, in the NFL. No question.
Yeah.
They hit on quarterback, and now people are saying, yeah, you know what? They're the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's mostly about hitting on quarterback coverage. And by the way, the Texans, they're top 10 in dead money, in dead cap money, even for last year, right? Because they still got the Deshaun Watson disaster on the books, that kind of stuff. But it didn't matter. None of it matters because they are allowed to reset the championship window when they hit on the quarterback. You go look at the 49ers. The 49ers made one of the worst trades in NFL history. Shano would be fired. Lynch would be fired. If it was any other organization and they hadn't hit on Purdy, everybody would be gone. But they hit on Purdy. They've had Garoppolo and then the Trey Lance thing, and Purdy's now the guy because they hit on Purdy. By the way, they hit on Purdy. They hit on Mr. Irrelevant last in the NFL draft. They hit on him. Now, what are they doing? Now they've been able to reset everything, and all the sins of the past have been forgiven.
Yeah.
The worst trade argument in NFL history, some people would say, Trey Lance, and it barely affects them as an organization now because they were able to trade him and get a 4th round pick in exchange, and now they can start over with a cheaper version of Brock Purdy. If you hit on the quarterback, all the mistakes, all the dumb ideas you had, and all the dumb moves you made, they are all forgiven. Philadelphia does it all the time.
Yeah.
Philadelphia does it all the time. They just keep resetting the window. That's why they got the Jalen Hurts thing. They reset it. And the thing about it with Carson Wentz, they admitted, you know what? We might not have drafted the right guy with Carson Wentz. But as long as they hit on one of those quarterbacks, which they did, they hit on Jalen Hurts, all is forgiven. By the way, I guess the Nick Foles thing also counts them. They're the ones who originally drafted Nick Foles, but different discussion for a different day.
I mean,
Green Bay is this,
throw in the Chiefs who have mismanaged the wide receiver since trading Tyreek Hill and are defending champs.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. But I'm talking like the draft, like as president. You're right about that.
But they drafted Patty Mahomes.
It erases sins. Exactly. It erases sins forever. But I'm talking about organizations who people thought, oh man, they're going to score. But you're right. No doubt about that. They were winning games with Alex Smith. They're winning way more with Patrick Mahomes. But Green Bay was supposed to be in the midst of resetting and rebuilding. Green Bay's never going to rebuild because they keep hitting on quarterbacks. They keep drafting them way before everybody else says they should draft them, and then they hit on the quarterback. Right. And Green Bay had, I believe, 3rd most dead money in the NFL last season. But the quarterback worked out for them. Everybody talked about how the Rams were mortgaging their future when they was like F them picks and they were just trading 1st round picks to win a Super Bowl, and it all worked out because they won a Super Bowl. But why did it all work out? Because they got the quarterback. They went and got messed up. They got the quarterback. So it all works out. All the mistakes you made are forgiven. Just hit on the damn quarterback, man. You hit on that, and everything else will work itself out. You got to hit on the QB, though. And that's why they made the playoffs this past year. Nobody thought the Rams would make the playoffs. Made the playoffs. Why? They got a quarterback. And they'll be able to. They had a 1st round pick for the first time since Sean McVay's been there this year. And there's no rebuild. There's no rebuild because they got the quarterback. It's just doesn't. So that's why teams are willing to roll the dice on those QBs. You can apply that to Tampa. Tampa Bay had more dead money because of the Tom Brady deal than any team in the league last year. And because they hit on the Tom Brady thing, they won a Super Bowl. And then because they hit on Baker Mayfield, bringing him in, resuscitating his career, the dead money, yeah, that's $75 million dead money, but it doesn't matter as much because they still made the playoffs. And the quarterback position worked out from you. If it works out at quarterback for you, your mistakes are not as glaring and they don't matter as much. That's why all those teams decided, nah, man, we're going to roll the dice at quarter. And that's why more teams are doing it. By the way, here's a stat for you. More teams are doing this. You brought this up yesterday, Patrick. So I went and tried to dig some deep diving on it, how there's a separation now that if you are there's no middle class of quarterbacks anymore. You're either going to be drafted, your skill. If you got one or two elite traits, it'll push you into the first round. All right. Or at top of the first round, even higher. If you're at the bottom of the first round, it's going to push you even higher. Or if you don't have enough of those elite traits, it'll just push you down. Teams they'll decide, you know what? No, we're drafting this guy in the first round, or we're going to decide to address quarterback in another way, or we're not going to address quarterback at all, which is from the Cowboys. Right? We're not addressing quarterback at all. Between 2005 and 2014, NFL teams took 42 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds of the draft. And that's a decade worth of sample size. And from 2015 to 2024, 41 quarterbacks drafted in the first 2 rounds. So same amount of quarterbacks, but where they're drafted is the key here. So you go look at it over the past 10 drafts, 31 quarterbacks have been selected in the top half of the first round, picks 1 through 16. So 31 quarterbacks drafted in the top half of the first round over the past decade. Only 18 were taken in that range from 2005 to 2014. They taken hires, pushing them up to the first round, right? Positional value. The quarterback position, it's just being overvalued these days. So teams are willing to take more chances on it. Meanwhile, you've seen only 6 quarterbacks taken in the second round over the past 10 years. Just 6 taken in the second round over the past 10 years, which it was 15 the previous decade of quarterbacks taken in the second round. 15 from 2005 to 2014, and you've only had 6 in the most recent decade from 2015 to 2024. So same amount of quarterbacks, but they're being distributed in different areas of the draft. They're being prioritized more and being valued more. Matter of fact, how about this? The last time, if you go look at it, we haven't seen a quarterback taken from picks 34 to 63 since Jalen Hurts. And only 4 have been taken in that range in the past decade from picks 34 to 63. Because Jalen Hurts these days would have got pushed all the way into the first round. They'd have pushed him to the top 16. They'd be like, no, we're pushing to the top 16. Or he would have got dropped all the way where Spencer Rattler got dropped to was middle round. So the middle to the late rounds. So in fact, what you've talked about, Patrick, it is indeed happening. It's been happening over the last decade. That's because of the valuation of the quarterback position overall. And, Brad Holmes, who's a really good GM in the NFL. He's the Detroit Lions GM. He's really good. I'll give you some stats on that in a second. He surprised me, and this is how you know he's thinking outside the box. It's a very unorthodox way of acquiring talent and of looking at talent and evaluating talent. He was asked about positional value, and he was asked about it because he was wearing a shirt that said "positional villain" on it. And he was asked to explain, like, man, what's going on with this shirt you got on? It says positional villain. That's weird. And here's Brad Holmes explaining why he was wearing the positional villain shirt. And then he gets to explaining how he was introduced to positional value.
When I got tipped off on what positional value was, I didn't even know what that was. I didn't. So it was just like a new analytic. I didn't know what it was. So when you got shook it, I was like, oh wow, and then I thought about it and I was like, positional value. I was like, so you pick a position but not the player. And I was thinking, I was like, no, we're looking for football players. So we're looking for these guys. And so, but it doesn't matter. So it's more positional villain.
Yeah, so he's a positional villain. And if you look at it, we talked about this with the Lions. They haven't picked a lot of premium. They've been picking non-premium positions high in the draft, right? They pick running back high in the draft, linebacker high in the draft. They pick tight end high in the draft, and safety. They literally are picking non-premium positions high in the draft. You're supposed to pick premium positions high in the draft because of positional value, because you want that. you want those premium positions, which are the most expensive positions on the free market, on the open market. You want them at a discount, and you get them at a discount in the draft. All right. But the non-premium positions, they're cheaper in terms of their salary cap value. So you can pay for them later on, even on the open market or from the free market or free agency. But if you want those really high level premium position players, you draft those guys. But he's saying, no, I just draft the best football players, period. But by the way, it's working for him. That's the crazy thing. It's working for him. If you go look at it, damn near 22% of Brad Holmes' draft picks since he became GM have become Pro Bowlers. That's a hell of a hit rate he's got going on right there. The Lions have drafted 4 Pro Bowlers in the first round over the last 5 NFL drafts, the most in the NFL. The Lions have drafted 7 Pro Bowlers in any round over the last 5 NFL drafts. Only the Cowboys have drafted more with 8. That's the same. Yeah, Cowboys. Cowboys are great. They really are. They're one of the best drafting teams in the NFL, probably the most homegrown team in the league. The Lions have also drafted a Pro Bowler in the first in 3 straight drafts. Adding to this, the Lions have selected a Pro Bowler in 7 straight NFL drafts, the longest active streak in the NFL. So the man, I mean, he just picks football players. He's like, now I'm not worried about positional value. And that does reflect in his drafts. It's working for him. So to each his own. There are plenty of ways to skin a catfish, as they say.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, I mean, I think it probably started with the Jahmyr Gibbs pick.
Yeah.
And everybody freaking out about drafting a running back that high, especially the second running back off the board, because Bijan was the guy that people said, okay, if there's one running back who could be a first-round pick, it's Bijan. But Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't on there, and, I mean, we could see what he could do. And it's one of those points, too, of if you have a good enough roster, you can do those types of things. But you just have to build the rest of your roster up to be able to do that. And most people don't have that luxury. So you do have to look at positional value because you're trying to find ways. But the Lions had enough other things. They're like, well, this is what we need.
Exactly right. That's how he was thinking. He's like, no, this is what we need. We need this. And yeah, I mean, you got to respect that. He's been around, I think, like 5 years. I mean, like I said, they've taken a tight end. They had TJ Hawkinson in the first round. And like I said, I think some of this might be a little bit before Brad Holmes potentially. But think about it. They took a center in the first round in 2018. They took a tight end in the first round in 2019. Non-premium. They did go corner in 2020. They went Penei Sewell in 2021. Those are premium positions. They went Aiden Hutchinson. So they went 3 straight years premium positions. And then they went Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, running back and off-ball linebacker in back-to-back drafts in 2023. They also picked Laporta in their first pick in the second round. They picked a safety with their second round pick, so their 4th pick that year. So they went 4 non-premium positions in a row when they had 2 first and 2 second round picks in 2023. And they did go Terrion Arnold here in 2024. They went back to back. They drafted a lot of DBs. They went back to back DBs actually in this most recent draft in the first and the second round. But yeah, they had no problem drafting a non-premium position and saying, no, man, he's the best football player on the board. What are you talking about?
The best football player and fits what we want and what we need. Yeah. Versus we shouldn't take somebody just because that they're, that we don't like. That was the problem. And, I know people got mad. They said Bijan there was a reach for Bijan. But that was partially because they already had a running back that they liked, and hence they ran him more than Bijan last year too. That's why it's a bit of a reach for me. Mm-hmm. And not that he was not a better player than pick 7, but because a team already has it. So that when you say, well, positional value, you already have that position. You got to go get something else now versus where when they took Gibbs and they go, well, we have Swift, but we're going to move off of him anyway. And we want to get in there. If they would have moved off of Algiers, then it probably is a better pick. But yeah, those are the issues of when you're drafting positionally. It's, can you find a place where you need a hole and you feel that this is a solid upgrade and can be a long-term upgrade for you versus are you just drafting it because that's the position you're supposed to draft?
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're right. It is. I mean, it's kind of gets to the Atlanta Falcons pick, right? I mean,
yeah.
And Atlanta actually has been one of those teams that not ignores positional value, but is definitely not the ultimate determining factor. As you point out, drafted Bijan, drafted Kyle Pitts, right, early on, even though he's kind of a freak of nature, drafted Kyle Pitts early. So, them drafting quarterback, I do think they also kind of work outside the box and getting back. I guess we come full circle here to the Raj Rant. If it works out with Michael Penix, nobody will care.
No,
it'll cover up all the mistakes, it put like this. Even if the Kirk Cousins thing doesn't work out, but the Michael Penix thing does, nobody will give a damn about all the dead money that you owe Kirk Cousins and that you overpaid him. It won't matter because everybody will call you a genius for hitting on the quarterback. Just hit on the QB. You can get 80% of everything wrong. You hit on the quarterback, you can start over. You can reset everything. All your mistakes and sins will be forgiven.
Yeah. And if it doesn't, you fire a couple guys and you hire some new guys, and everybody says, well, now the future is bright. We've got new guys.
Yeah, no, you're right. Or you're going to end up fired either way. And that's why I say Brandon Beane, he put it best. He said, listen, no matter what I spend for a quarterback, it doesn't matter. As long as I hit, then the price will never be too high. But if I miss on that quarterback, I'm fired anyway. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm out. So the same result is if I miss on the quarterback, I'm fired. I'm done. I just got to make sure I hit on the quarterback. Who cares what I spend to get him?
Yeah.
Nobody remembers what they spent to get Matt Stafford. Nobody remembers that. Nobody cares because you hit. Nobody gives a damn.